In the quiet hills of Ipetu-Jesa, a town nestled among thick forests and red clay roads of southwestern Nigeria, lived two girls as different as sun and moon. Dunni, with her quick laughter and kind heart, came from a family of teachers. Her parents ran a small community school, where Dunni often helped tutor younger children after class. She loved books, storytelling, and asking questions no one else dared to ask. Sayo, on the other hand, was born into a family of tailors and traders. Her mother was famous for her oso oak designs that graced weddings and festivals far beyond the borders of their town. Sayo herself was as graceful as a dancer, with a gift for organizing people and a flair for making even the plainest day feel like a celebration. They had been best friends since childhood, bonded by a mysterious promise they made under the ancient Irako tree that stood behind their primary school. "We'll never leave each other behind," Dunni had said, their pinky fingers locked tightly. Sayo had smiled and nodded, "No matter what path we walk." But as the girls grew older, the paths before them began to divide. Dunni had earned a partial scholarship to one of Nigeria's most prestigious boarding schools in Lagos. Everyone in town talked about her brilliance, how she would be a doctor or even a president one day. But Sayo, though equally talented, was not offered the same chance. Her family couldn't afford the kind of school Dunni was headed for, and so she planned to stay back and help her mother grow the tailoring business. The girls didn't talk about the growing distance, not at first. Instead, they threw themselves into their final year of junior secondary school, winning debate competitions and volunteering at the health clinic. They walked to school together every day, their sandals kicking up red dust as they whispered secrets and dreamed aloud. But beneath the laughter, a question lingered in both their hearts. Would their friendship survive the different roads they were about to walk? One Saturday afternoon, their school announced a nationwide competition, a 2-week leadership and entrepreneurship camp in Abuja, designed for young girls from across Nigeria. Only 2 girls from each state would be chosen. It was a chance for mentorship, exposure, and the possibility of future scholarships. Dunni was excited. Her parents encouraged her to apply. But she thought of Sayo. That night, the two sat under the Irako tree once more. "What if we both try?" Dunni asked quietly. Sayo looked uncertain. "And what if only one of us is chosen?" Dunni reached for her hand, her voice firm. "Then she doesn't go without the other." They didn't know it then, but the path they were about to walk would test everything they believed about friendship, dreams, and staying true, not just to each other, but to themselves. And so, with the stars blinking above them and the leaves rustling like whispers from the ancestors, Dunni and Sayo made another promise. They would try together. Whatever came, they would face it side by side. The application process for the Abuja camp was intense. Each girl had to write an essay titled, "What Makes a Leader," submit a project proposal, and record a 1-minute video explaining how they would use their talents to change their community. Dunni, ever the thinker, chose to write about the power of listening. "A true leader listens before they speak," she wrote. Her project idea focused on creating a mobile reading van to reach rural schools in Osun State. Sayo, on the other hand, chose to write about courage. "Leaders take action, even when it's hard," she wrote in her confident, rhythmic style. Her project was brilliant, a youth tailoring collective where teenage girls could learn to sew, earn money, and stay in school. For their videos, they borrowed Dunni's uncle's smartphone and filmed each other by the Irako tree. Dunni spoke with her usual calm, weaving in Yoruba proverbs her grandmother used to tell her. Sayo spoke with passion, her hands gesturing as if sowing hope from the air itself. They helped each other. Reviewed essays, shared ideas, encouraged one another. Even when their teachers tried to suggest they submit separately to increase their chances, the girls shook their heads. "Together," Sayo said. "Or not at all." 2 weeks passed. Then, one morning, as the sun filtered through mango trees and roosters crowed in the distance, a message came to the school office. The headmistress called them in during break time. She adjusted her glasses, looking stern. Only 2 girls have been selected to represent Osun State, she said. Dunni and Sayo held hands under the desk. The headmistress looked up slowly. Dunni Adebayo, and Sayo Akande. Congratulations. For a moment, the room was silent. Then Sayo let out a small, shocked laugh. Dunni squealed. The headmistress allowed herself a rare smile as the girls hugged tightly, tears streaming down their cheeks. The town erupted with pride. Their families celebrated with food, drumming, and a cloth Sayo's mother designed just for the occasion, green with patterns of books and sewing needles. As they packed for the trip, the girls grew nervous. It would be their first time traveling so far, their first time on a plane, and their first time stepping into a world filled with girls from cities like Abuja, Lagos, Port Harcourt, places they had only read about in newspapers or seen on NTA News. The night before departure, Dunni couldn't sleep. She turned to Sayo, whispering from the mat beside her, "What if we're not like them?" Sayo was quiet for a while before replying, "Then we show them who we are." And with that, the girls drifted into a peaceful sleep, unaware that the adventure ahead would not only challenge their friendship, but reveal the strength that had always been inside them. The day of the journey arrived with excitement and nerves. Their parents escorted them to the motor park in Osogbo, where the government-sponsored bus would pick them up. It wasn't just Dunni and Sayo, there were other girls too, each carrying a suitcase filled with clothes, dreams, and expectations. As the bus pulled out, Dunni looked back at her mother, who waved with misty eyes. Beside her, Sayo held a small pouch tied to her neck, a charm of sorts, filled with cloth scraps and attire patterns from her mother. "To remind me where I come from," she said, clutching it. After a 6-hour journey through winding roads and highways, the girls reached Abuja. But it wasn't the city lights that took their breath away, it was the Academy for Rising Women Leaders, where the camp was held. The building stood like a palace, wide glass walls, landscaped gardens, and flags of all Nigerian states fluttering proudly in the breeze. At the entrance, a banner read, "Welcome to Tomorrow." Girls from every corner of Nigeria were arriving. Some wore sneakers and braids, others came in heels and geli. There were girls fluent in French from the north, and others who spoke Igbo so fast, it made Dunni smile in wonder. A tall woman with locks and glasses greeted them at the gate. "I am Ms. Olumide, your mentor for the next 2 weeks. You are here not because you are the best in your school, but because you believed in yourself, and in your sister." She looked directly at Dunni and Sayo. "We value teamwork here." The girls were paired and assigned rooms. Luckily, Dunni and Sayo stayed together in a bright dorm with 2 bunk beds and a view of the gardens. The next morning, orientation began. Every day was structured, leadership classes in the morning, team projects in the afternoon, and storytelling sessions around the fire pit at night. They were taught by women who were CEOs, engineers, farmers, poets, and even a famous Nollywood director. These women told stories not of perfection, but of growth, how they stumbled, how they rose, and how they made space for others as they climbed. Dunni took to the leadership workshops like a fish to water. She asked questions, volunteered first, and quickly became a favorite among the facilitators. But Sayo shone in other ways. During the creative challenge, she led her team to victory by designing a pop-up tailoring business that could be run from a tricycle. Still, not everything was easy. Some of the girls from bigger cities whispered about their accents. Others showed off phones, clothes, and confidence that made Dunni and Sayo feel small, like they didn't quite belong. One evening, after a long day, Dunni sat by the window, her voice low. "Maybe they're right," she said. "Maybe we're just small-town girls." Sayo sat beside her and touched her hand. "No. They just don't know how strong we are yet." And so, the girls decided, not just to prove themselves, but to lift others up as they climbed. Together. The camp's first major challenge came on day 5. Ms. Olumide gathered the girls in the auditorium after breakfast. Her tone was serious as she announced, "Tomorrow, each team will face the Mirror Room Challenge, a test of self-awareness. Leadership is not only about leading others, but about knowing who you are when no one is watching. The Mirror Room wasn't magical, but it felt like it could be. It was a glass building set in the middle of a garden, surrounded by silence. Inside, each pair of girls would be separated and asked the same set of questions, about themselves, their teammate, and their goals. They had to answer honestly, without knowing what the other said. Dunni and Sayo were confident at first. "We know each other like we know our own names," Dunni smiled. But the night before the challenge, uncertainty crept in. They sat on their bunk, questions swirling in their minds. What if they ask who's the better leader? Sayo said, staring at the ceiling. Or who deserves the scholarship more? Dunni added softly. They looked at each other. For the first time since coming to the camp, a small crack began to form between them, not out of jealousy, but fear. Fear of being measured. Fear of being misunderstood. The next day, the sun rose sharp and golden. The girls were led to the mirror room, their footsteps quiet on the stone path. Inside, the room was cold and bright. Glass panels surrounded them, reflecting every movement. They were separated. Dunni sat on one side of the room with a camp counselor. Sayo sat on the other. The questions began. Who is more confident, Dunni or Sayo? Dunni hesitated, then said, Sayo. She walks into a room and people listen. Sayo, at the same moment, answered, Dunni. Her voice isn't loud, but people feel it. Who is more likely to succeed in business? Dunni, Sayo. She's already a businesswoman. She just doesn't know it yet. Sayo, Dunni. She's got plans and backup plans. I just follow my heart. If only one of you could win the national prize, who should it be? This time, both paused longer. Dunni's heart beat loudly. But finally, she said, Sayo. At the same moment, on the other side of the glass, Sayo said, Dunni. When the challenge ended, the girls were allowed to see their answers side by side on a screen. As they read each other's words, tears welled in their eyes. They stepped into the courtyard silently. Then hugged, tightly. No words, just the quiet understanding that though they had started this journey for the camp, they were really here for each other. Miss Olumide approached them. You know, she said, smiling, some girls try to outshine their partners. But you too. You shine brighter because of each other. That's rare. From that day on, Dunni and Sayo were no longer just friends at camp. They became an example. Not of perfection. But of partnership. By the second week, the girls had gained attention. Not just from mentors, but from their peers too. Dunni was invited to moderate the final debate on gender and leadership. Sayo was asked to lead the Fashion Enterprise Group during the Community Innovation Fair. Everyone was watching them now, including girls who had ignored or underestimated them earlier. It felt good. But it also brought new pressure. One evening, after a particularly long strategy session, Dunni found Sayo sitting alone under a mango tree near the dining hall. Her shoulders were hunched, her usual sparkle missing. You okay? Dunni asked, sitting beside her. Sayo sighed. They said I'm too bossy. That I talk too much. Who said that? Sayo hesitated. Chisholm and Amina. From Lagos. Dunni frowned. But your ideas were the ones that got your group shortlisted. Yeah, but they still don't see me. They say I only got here because of you. Dunni's eyes widened. That's nonsense. Sayo shrugged. It's how they think. I'm just the tailor's daughter. You're the one with the big grammar and big dreams. They think I'm tagging along. Dunni didn't know what to say. She had never imagined her shine could cast a shadow on her best friend. She thought about the times facilitators praised her in front of everyone. Had she ever turned that praise into a bridge for Sayo? That night, back in their dorm, Dunni couldn't sleep. She wrote in her journal until the moonlight faded. The next morning, during a team meeting for the innovation fair, Dunni stood up unexpectedly. "I won't be leading the debate anymore," she said clearly. "I want Sayo to take my place." The group murmured in confusion. Ms. Alyamide raised an eyebrow. "May I ask why?" "Because leadership isn't about who talks the most," Dunni replied. "It's about who brings people together. Sayo's been doing that since day one. She just hasn't been given the microphone." There was a pause. Then Ms. Alyamide smiled. "Spoken like a true leader." Sayo was stunned. Later, when they were alone, she confronted Dunni. "Why did you do that?" "Because I believe in you," Dunni said simply. "And you deserve to be heard. Not just by me, but by everyone." Sayo looked down, blinking away tears. "But what about your dream? This camp means a lot to you." Dunni laughed softly. "My dream isn't just to be seen. It's to help others be seen too." The next day, Sayo walked up to the podium for the final debate. Her voice trembled at first, but by the time she delivered her closing line, even Chisholm and Amina were clapping. In that moment it was clear, Sayo didn't need to stand in anyone's shadow. She had her own light. And it was shining brightly. With the final week of camp underway, the girls were assigned their biggest task yet, the legacy project. Each pair had to design a community initiative they would implement within 6 months of returning home. It had to be realistic, impactful, and sustainable. As soon as they received the assignment, Dunni and Sayo walked down to their favorite spot, the garden beside the mirror room. "We need something that reflects both of us," Dunni said. "Something that helps girls like us," Sayo added. They brainstormed all afternoon. Ideas came and went, a book club, a sewing workshop, a mentorship program, but nothing felt quite right. Later that evening, as they helped clean up after dinner, they noticed one of the kitchen girls, a soft-spoken teenager named Jumok, folding spoons with a cloth around her hand. "Are you okay?" Sayo asked. Jumok smiled shyly. "It's nothing. Hot water spilled, but I have to finish. If I don't, my auntie won't pay me." They exchanged a glance. That night, in their dorm, Dunni whispered, "There are so many girls like Jumok. Working hard. Invisible." Sayo nodded. "They don't get camps like this. Or chances to dream." That's when the idea came. The Girls Who Stay. A Saturday school and empowerment hub for girls who didn't get to leave their villages for city schools or fancy camps. Girls who were bright, but forgotten. Girls who were like Jumok, and the ones they had grown up with back in Ipetu-Jesa. Their hub would have 3 parts, reading circles led by Dunni, vocational training led by Sayo, and a mentorship guest series where women from nearby towns would speak monthly. It would run in the community center, and they'd start with 10 girls. They spent days refining the proposal, budgeting, planning, designing flyers, even writing letters they could send to local NGOs. They printed their poster on thick card and titled it boldly, "The Girls Who Stay, Building Dreams Where They Are." On presentation day, the auditorium was packed. Judges from across Nigeria sat with clipboards, ready to score. When it was their turn, Dunni introduced the vision. Then Sayo took over, sharing real stories and showing how small actions, like teaching sewing or reading aloud, could shift an entire life. By the time they were done, the room was silent. Then came thunderous applause. One judge, a woman who ran a foundation for girls' education, stood up. "You didn't just design a project. You built a mirror. A reminder that those who stay behind are not lost, they're leaders waiting to be seen." Afterwards, girls from other states approached them, asking how to start similar hubs in their own communities. Dunni and Sayo looked at each other, overwhelmed, but joyful. They hadn't just passed the test. They had planted a seed. And it was already starting to grow. As the applause faded, Dunni and Sayo sat side by side, no longer just girls from Ipetu-Jesa, but young women who had found their voices. They had dreamed, dared, and been seen. But beyond the quiet night and fading embers, something bigger was stirring. Because this was only the beginning. What happens when two girls return home with fire in their hearts? Find out in part 2, where the dream meets the world.